Hey, what's up? I'm sure you were wondering, where is he? PMP exam tomorrow. What do you do? If your PMP exam is tomorrow, folks, it's already too late for you to go into panic mode. So don't even panic. It's too late. Why panic? You have to be calm. So the first thing, I'm going to share with you 10 things that you need to do if your PMP exam is tomorrow. Step one, don't panic. It's too late to panic. If you wanted to panic, you should have done it 10 months ago or 10 days ago. But calm down. No need to panic. Just remember, a lot of people have done this before you. It's absolutely doable. You can pass the PMP exam. A lot of people say the questions are so weird and they're esoteric and so on. No, 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 don't worry. Yeah, you can deal with weird. Your tolerance for ambiguity is huge. Just tell yourself, I can deal with unknowns. I can deal with difficult questions. Okay, so you want to put yourself into that mode of being Superman. Go into Superman mode. I can do it. It will amaze you how many stories I've heard from students who say, Phil, I went into the exam and I thought that the battle was already, done and over with, in that I was beaten, but I ended up winning. I've had students who said, Phil, I got so many proficients, I couldn't even believe it. I've had 2 students this year get 5 proficients. Many get 4 proficients. And these are folks who thought, I don't know if I'm going to pass the exam. Even in the exam, they were like, I don't know if I'm doing well. Hey, don't panic. Don't panic. Step 2, do a dump. Do a dump of page 61 in the PMBOK guide. You know the page. You know the same old bad channel in the PMBOK guide, page 61, that everyone pulls their hair out over. You know it. Do a dump of page 61. Why should you do a brain dump of page 61? Do a brain dump of page 61 because it will give you confidence that you actually know something. It's one of the quickest ways to accelerate your confidence levels. So do a dump of page 61, okay? Do that dump of page 61, all of the process groups, all the processes, all the knowledge areas, and all that stuff. After you've done your dump of page 61, I want you to do a dump of the formulas. Step 3, do a dump of all of those formulas, all of those annoying EACs, ETCs, PV, EV, anywhere those appear, do those formulas, and that will up your confidence levels, okay? Step 4, you want to do a dump of the main inputs and outputs against the process. So you've done a dump of page 61. How about adding the major inputs for every process, the major outputs for every process? I would highly recommend that. So you've got 47 processes, the major inputs to each one. What are the major inputs to developing the project charter? Well, the business case, statement of work, agreements, EFs, OPAs. Okay, what are the inputs to identify stakeholders? Okay, the charter is going to be there. And keep going down the list, folks. So step 4 is very important. You want to do a brain dump of the inputs and outputs against the processes, okay? Step 5, you want to do a dump of the major tools and techniques. So step 5, for develop project charter, what is 1 or 2 of the major tools and techniques? Expert judgment, well, give me another one, and go through them like that. Step 6, this is a fun one. Have family members quiz you. Don't family members get a kick out of seeing you stumble and grasp for straws when they ask you questions from the PMBOK guide? It's fun. It's been done to me, and you should let it be done to you. So have family members quiz you about the inputs, tools, techniques, and outputs using all the figure-1s in the PMBOK guide. So figure 4-1, 5-1, 6-1, all the way to 13. Sorry, I'm running a little bit ahead of the PMI here. There's no chapter 14. Chapter 13, all right? So figure 4-1 all the way to 13-1. So 4-1, 5-1, 6-1, 7-1, 8-1, all the way to 13-1, okay? Okay, so when they ask you all of these questions, what is an input to this? Or name 2 inputs to control quality, that kind of thing. Step 7, You want to review high probability topics. What do I mean by high probability topics? By high probability topics, I'm talking about those topics that you've heard come out on the PMP exam. You've heard it from a ton of people. And if you haven't heard this stuff from a ton of people, what are you doing? You should have been on LinkedIn. You should have been on a few groups on Facebook where people talk about the experience on the PMP exam. And some people say risk was crazy, it was huge, or network diagrams was definitely a recurring theme, or probably not. Or maybe you hear things like Maslow's and McGregor's, don't waste your time on that. So you want to review high probability topics, topics that you hear people moaning and groaning about, change management, stuff like that. Okay. Step 8, review executing and monitoring and controlling. You want to review those major ITTOs, folks, from the executing and monitoring and controlling process group. Someone says, Phil, what about planning? Well, by now, I hope you studied planning, but the reason why I'm honing in on executing and monitoring and controlling alone, probably spend an hour going through the major ITTOs on those, because these are high trouble areas. I've found people failing the entire exam because they failed executing and they failed monitoring and controlling, or they failed one of them. Sometimes people pass everything else, fail executing, and that's it. They just, that's it. The exam, they fail the exam. Monitoring and controlling, same thing. People fail that, they fail the entire exam. So this is low-hanging fruit for this reason. Executing has 8 processes, but it's 31% of the exam. Can you imagine that? 8 processes, but 31% of the exam. Wow. What about monitoring and controlling? Monitoring and controlling, 11 processes, 25% of the exam. Oh my goodness. 56% of the exam just comes from 8 plus 11, 19. Wow. It tells me that if you can study these 19 processes really, really well, your chances of success will be increased. You see, if you take a look at processes that belong to time and risk and scope, you've got 6, 6, 7. That's 12 plus 7, 19, pretty much the same. 3 knowledge areas, right, equals these same amount of processes within executing and monitoring and controlling. It's low-hanging fruit, folks. So hone in on everything in executing, everything in monitoring and controlling on your final day of study. I highly, highly advise it. Step 9, practice your exam plan. If you don't have an exam plan, I'll ask the question, what are you doing? What are you doing? How come you don't have an exam plan and your exam is tomorrow? If your exam is tomorrow, folks, have an exam plan. And by exam plan, I mean the A to Z of getting in your car, getting to the venue, getting out of the car, not studying or studying, listening to some audio or not. If you're like me, like 10 years ago, I would study up to the last minute. I found out that it's a waste of time, because what you are going to pass the exam on is already in your head. Just be bold. So don't waste time, but practice the exam plan. I'm going to wake up at this time. I'm going to drive to the venue. And if you haven't checked out your venue, that would be a good thing for you to do before the day of the exam. Check out the venue, folks. Okay? So check out your venue and practice your exam plan. Practice it. What am I going to do when I get into the exam? What am I going to do when I come across a pocket of tough questions? What am I going to do when I come across questions that I know, but they are just so time consuming? All of that stuff, you need to rehearse it in your head. You need to rehearse it in reality as well. So practice your exam plan. What am I going to do if I've gotten to question 50 and 2 hours have gone? I hope not. Or maybe like me, what are you going to do if you get to question 20 and 1 hour has gone? That happened to me, folks. So be careful to practice your exam plan, so when you find these things on the actual exam, you already know what to do. How many breaks are you going to take? Are you going to take 1 break, 2, 3, 4? I've actually taken 3 breaks on an exam, at the recommendation of one of my students. And It was one of the best exams I've ever had. I took 3 breaks. You know, one of my students, Ben Shi, out here in Arizona, he took the PMP and he said, Phil, I took 3 breaks. And I couldn't believe it, 3 breaks. So when I went into my CAPM exam or RMP or SP, can't remember the exam, I took 3 breaks. And it was great. It felt good. I felt in control. You know, I would take the break, I would come back, and I would feel even more refreshed than before. But this is stuff that you need to practice, okay? So practice your exam plan. Are you going to review any of the questions? Are you going to change questions? All that stuff needs to be rehearsed, okay? Step 10, last but not least, EPS. What do I mean by EPS? Eat as much as you need to. Pray as much as you need to, folks. A lot of people say, Phil, that's all hogwash. It's either I save myself or I sink. Well, that's up to you. If you are a person of faith, you might want to pray. I tell you, praying, in my experience, it goes a long way. It helps. So eat, pray, sleep, EPS, sleep. Get your 8 hours of sleep in. Get your beauty sleep in. A lot of people think that if they burn the midnight oil the night before, then it's a guarantee for success. No, no, no. In fact, it's probably more like a guarantee for some sort of, I don't know, I don't want to say failure, but I'll say some sort of difficulty. It's more like some difficulty. So, you know, I would recommend that anyone who is taking the exam the next day, please sleep, please eat. And if you're a person of faith, pray. A lot of my students, they say, Phil, you know, I decided I was going to watch a movie the night before the exam. Watch a movie. It helps. One of my students, Sarah, she said, Phil, I watched Monsters University the night before my exam, and it was a great release. And she went in there to the exam the next day and killed it with 4 proficients, folks. So I can hear the phone ring, and it seems like I'm in high demand right now. So I'm going to call it a day. But just remember, if your PMP exam is tomorrow, do these 10 things. Don't panic. Do a brain dump of page 61. Do a brain dump of the formulas. Do a brain dump of inputs and outputs against processes. Do a brain dump of the main tools and techniques. Do a brain dump of all of that stuff up to step 5, and then have a family member quiz you on all the figures 4-1 to 13-1. Step 7, review high probability topics. And if you don't know what those are, you might want to take a look at our YouTube channel, Praizio, and just search for that on YouTube. Step 8, review executing and monitoring and controlling major ITTOs. Step 9, practice your exam plan. And step 10, EPS, eat, pray, sleep, folks. Eat, pray, sleep. You know, don't wait till the last minute, you know, before you begin to say your last prayers like me. I got into the exam and I was on question 20 in 1 hour. And, you know, when I got to the end of the exam, I started saying my last prayers. If I could come out of here alive, I probably should have done that before I got in. I don't think I did. Maybe that's why it was so hard. Anyway, folks, I hope that helps. And thank you for joining. Those of you watching after the fact on Facebook, on YouTube, don't forget to hit the like button and share it with a friend of yours. You know, this knowledge could save someone's exam. It could give them ideas that set them free. So please go ahead and share it. Thank you very much. And don't forget to ask questions. Leave your questions below. Bye for now.